Howdy, Phil, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at John chapter 4, verses 48 through 50. But first, last time in John chapter 4. I love it when this happens. There we go. Here's our rubric, everything we look for as we go through the text. Let's get started. Epen un ho Jesus pros auton, eon me seimea kai terra ta idete me pisteussete, lege pros auton ho basilikos kurie, katabithi prin apothanen to paidion mu, lege autoi ho Jesus, poreuo ho hoiosou zei episteusen ho anthropos toi logoi o hon epen autoi ho Jesus kai eporeu eto. That was a little bit more of a mouthful than usual. Well, we have a verb as our very first word. Epsilon nu there. We've already seen this enough times that I'm not going to bother parsing it. Un, therefore, following on from what has previously happened. Omicron article with Omicron upsilon sigma ending for Jesus. We know that this is going to be our subject with the verb. Pros auton, which is a common construction that we see when someone is speaking to another person, plus the accusative as the direct object of the verb speaking. This is going to be singular and masculine, referring to, well, the basilikos. We've got aeon, which means we've got a conditional clause here. We need to take a look at the verb to determine what type of condition we have. Neither of those works. We do have a negative, though, so it would be if, not, or unless. It would be how we would translate it normally. Seimea, we've got a noun there, kai, another noun, and here is our verb with eta, tau, epsilon, off the stem id. Idete comes from the verb horao, but specifically the aorist stem, horao opsomai edon. Or is it a circumflex? I don't remember what accent it is, but we have edon right there. We've got the epsilon contraction into the epsilon iota right there. So when it becomes the aorist subjunctive, which is what we have with this eta, epsilon drops out and we're just left with id. So then this means C. Aorist subjunctive with aeon is either going to be a present general or a future more vivid. But in order to be sure which, we need to take a look at the next half of our conditional sentence. Ume are emphatic negative. Pisteussete, epsilon tau, eta tau epsilon again. So that's, I should probably parse that. Third singular aorist active subjunctive. Space. And then this is going to be the same as idete, third. We know aorist because we've got the sigma right there. There's no augmenting vowel, so it has to be subjunctive. If the verb had been in the present stem, then this would be a present general conditional. But instead, since it's in the aorist subjunctive, which is sometimes equivalent to a future tense verb, then we know that this is going to be a future, which is not spelled with an N, future, more vivid. I think that's a acronym for something else too. Animate, no, that's an AMV. Completely unrelated, never mind. So, idete is taking the objects, seimea, alpha right there, and terra ta, alpha right there. Seimeon, accusative, plural, neuter. And then this is also going to need to be an accusative, and this comes from the verb terras. Terras, terra, what would it be? Terrati, I think. So terrata is another accusative plural neuter. Seimeion means sign, and then terrata has a little bit more of an interesting range. It can mean wonders, it can mean portents, which I think is the one that we're going to use. And then the other option is monsters, but I don't think that's what Jesus means here. So negated, if not signs and portents or wonders you all see, or unless you all see. Ume, emphatic negative, you indeed will not. Pisteusete, believe. End quote. And I've got the plural, the future in there because of the future more vivid construction. Lege, epsilon iota, we've seen that, don't need to parse it. Pros auton is just going to be the same construction as above, so we'll draw that down. Whole basilikos, omicron sigma there. If you recall last time, we went with the meaning for noble. All right, drew a capital N, then tried to correct it into a lowercase. Didn't work. Now it's just squiggle. Kurie, epsilon right there on kurios. We know that this is going to be the vocative, singular and masculine, referring, of course, to Jesus. Quote marks right there. Kata beithi, eta theta iota is our ending right there, and this comes from kata baino. So we don't have the present stem. Instead, we've got the aorist stem from bane, kata bane. And eithi is one of those weird imperatives that we find sometimes on aorists. I don't know why they do this. And I can't think of any other instances where it happens, but it does happen. It's I think, a Koine thing rather than an Attic thing. But again, my practice in Attic is old and dusty and almost completely forgotten. But anyway, we've got the second person singular aorist active imperative. And walk down, walk to. Prin is going to be a conjunction. I think previously I've called this a adverb. That's wrong. I actually bothered to check it this time. It is actually a conjunction. It's a conjunctive particle. Apothanein is going to be, if this were as a conjunctive particle, it's taking apothanein as the, not really object, but I think you get the idea. Epsilon iota nu right there, but this is off of the aorist stem because it's apothnesko for the present stem. The sigma kappa has dropped out, and we're just on the base aorist. So it's to die once rather than to die and keep dying. That would be absurd. And then we have to paidion, omicron nu as our ending there with to, confirming us for this neuter word as an accusative, singular neuter, which is this normal word for referring to children. Why do we have an accusative? Could be that apothanein is taking a direct object, which we would then expect to be to kill, but that's not normally what apothanein means. Instead, I think what we've got on here is Prin is creating a sort of indirect statement, which would then put paidion as the subject of apothanein before the son dies, as we would normally translate a indirect statement. And then mu is just our genitive, singular, common, owning paidion. And that ends this guy's direct statement. We get lege, don't need to parse that. Autoi, sub iota right there. Interesting that we've got a different form of direct address. Not direct address. I know, confusing. Vocative and is direct address as the indirect object of the verb. There we go. That was a little bit more difficult than it should have been. Then we've got pros auton with the past tense, and we've got pros auton with the lege, but then John switches around with autoi. That's strange. I don't know why he would do that. And then our subject right there. Por eu, we've got omicron upsilon right there as our ending. This is from por euomai. So our omicron upsilon tells us that this is going to be an imperative on a deponent verb, and it's going to be singular. So second singular present stem. Deponent. Sometimes the verb isn't deponent. And it all depends on where you are. And imperative. And this means to set out, to walk, to conduct one's life. So I don't think Jesus is saying, conduct your life. But I think he's saying, effectively, go. Huios, omicron, sigma right there for a nominative singular masculine. Su is genitive singular. But this time, second person. And then zei, sub iota with that eta right there is our Koine Greek third person singular present active indicative ending. If we were in if we were in Attic, then we would expect zei, I think. Oh, no, this is zao. So the alpha is contracting, that's already messing things up. But eta sub iota is pretty normal for Koine as the third person singular. But in the Attic, we would expect epsilon iota as the typical ending. Episteusen, epsilon iota right there. We've got the augmenting vowel at the beginning and a sigma right there telling us that this is going to be the third singular aorist tense, and it is active and it is indicative. Pisteuo itself normally takes a dative. Yeah, I don't need to say the normally. It just takes the dative, which is what we find here with toi, logoi. Ho anthropos is our subject for nominative singular masculine. And we'll come to that in a minute. Hon, with our aspiration mark there from hos he. Ho is our relative pronoun referring back to logoi, which is masculine, this time accusative, singular masculine. I don't need that C. Apen, epsilon nu, don't need to parse that either, with hon as the direct object of apen. Autoi, we've got another sub-iota indirect object, as we had here, reversing this. We've almost got a chiasm. Epen pros auton, epen autoi, lege pros auton, lege autoi. So a chiasm is when you have things stair-stepping down from opposite ends of a narrative or some sort of writing, and where you have parallels. Sometimes the chiasm is created from the words that are used, and more commonly it is the events that are portrayed. So Ruth, the book of Ruth is just chock full of them. They're everywhere. Some of them are a bit of a stretch though. But at least linguistically, we've got this interesting setup, these different indirect objects of a verb of speaking. Anyway, interesting note there. Which Jesus eporeueto, epsilon tau omicron, and augmenting epsilon right there off of the present Tim tells us that this is going to be a imperfect. Immediately after I tell you that it's going to be an imperfect, write down present. It's very, very dumb. Which, and there we have that. Since I immediately wrote the article in there, it should probably be consistent, at least on this page, and put the article there as well, and the article here as well. No, we by this point in reading John, we know that he's speaking about one particular Jesus, even though the name was relatively common back then, at least as ossuaries appear to be concerned. But let's take a look at this from its own context, and then it will set you free. Therefore the Jesus said to him, unless signs and portents you see, indeed you will not believe. Says to him the noble, Lord, walk down, before dies my son. Says to him the Jesus, go, your son lives. Believed the man in the word which he said to him, that is Jesus, and he was going. Those articles and the reordering of words is a bit awkward. I think I kind of switch back and forth depending on the video, whether I put them in English order or in the order as we find them. If you singular, prefer something, let me know. Otherwise, I'll keep being horribly inconsistent. But thank you very much for joining me. I hope taking a look at this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good day. Farewell.